Greaves.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. So last night I tried to keep track of how many men you killed in this one.
Why would you do that?
Because I'm so curious to know how many. I tried to do it.
But you're watching a film. Why are you paying attention to that? You must not have been doing our job if you're like, well, I can see how you'd be like kind of another one. Okay.
Well,
how did you do?
I got up to about 15 and then you got to Casablanca.
Oh, okay.
And that,
yeah. But it's not just me in this chapter, right?
No,
We've got
it's
some
not.
new characters and there's some new things going on and there's some other people doing some assassinating and fighting for their lives.
It's pretty amazing. The fight scenes are just incredible.
Oh, I'm glad you liked it.
They're so impressive. I mean, it's just, I was just interviewing Halle Berry and we were talking about how they're like ballet. They're choreographed ballet.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think it takes all of that kind of, I think they have things in common, right? So there's a vision for the fight. And through that is also the story of the fight and the story of the characters in that. And I think that's what the director, Chad Stahelski, really brings to it, is that consideration that the fighting has to be part of the story for the characters and even for the kind of the creation of the world. And then the vision, the team of people that goes into working the choreography out, working it, introducing the performers, teaching it to them, us working with who we're going to fight with, introducing the camera element, the operators, how to film it, shoot it, lighting department, production design. I mean, it is a real performance. And I think it's also there for me, part of the joy of that too, is that it hopefully is immersive and creates a connection between the audience and the character.
Well, I kept grabbing onto my producer last night.
Yeah.
Because, let's just talk about the first kill that you do in the movie.
Oh yeah. That's whoa!
That's literally what I was doing.
Oh my God, what was that? Oh my God.
Cracked his neck on a book.
What are you giving it away for? You gave it away.
No, I haven't. There's so much more. I mean, do you even look at some of the stunt work or some of the kills going, oh, really? That's where we're gonna go?
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. I think there is something about the John Wick tone.
Right.
I think there is a tone that through the course of the films that I think we can say that's a John Wick tone, right? Like there is something fun about that. I think even in all of the balletic violence, consequence, there's always some kind of, there's that motorcycle fight with swords. It's like, come on, but then there's some really close contact, intimate, moments too.
When you're fighting in Grand Central Station and none of the commuters are looking at you.
Yeah.
So it's like, is John Wick in just a whole different, I don't even know what the scientific word is, like in a different universe. Like you're not even you're not part of.
Well, some people would say it's like we're in New York. Right? Some people would say that.
Yeah.
And for us, it was part of a concept. Like we've always wanted to make a distinction between the real world and this hyper-continental high-table world, and some people traverse both sides, like in John Wick 1, Jimmy the police officer, right? Like everything okay in there, all right, have a good night, and in chapter 3, we go in there and there's some violence, but we wanted to separate that, make that distinction, that there is a real world and then there is this other world. And I think it's fun. Again, I think that's fun.
Did you ever think when you were making the first movie, we'd be sitting here talking about a third John Wick?
No, you can't. It's really a rare, special thing that I think myself and Chad Stahelski, the director, the producers, are really grateful for. You hope that people like what you do. And we certainly had hope and ambition for what we could do in John Wick. So, it's really to the people, to the fans who have said, okay, we like this film.
Right.
It's really giving us the opportunity to continue. And that's something that you can't really, we were a small independent movie, right? We were, I think we were negative pickup. So it was like, we didn't know what was going to happen, but we know we loved what we made and continue to make. And so hopefully people will like chapter 3.
Number 4. Are we set up already?
Again, it's up to the audience. I mean, I think, we have tons of ideas, and like, even from the first John Wick, we were like, what would happen? We didn't think, but we were like, and during chapter 2, we had some ideas. And so, yeah, I mean, some ideas, but then we go cook it up as we go along, which is cool because we're not beholden. It can be great to have some IP, but it's also cool to have freedom.
And Halle Berry.
Halle Berry.
So who came up with that idea? Were you guys sitting around going, you know what, she's Sophia?
Yeah. Well, we had a character named Sophia, and I don't know how that happened. I don't know. I think Chad was contacted. I think the script went out.
Yep.
And I've come to learn that Halle Berry was a fan of the films.
I know, she told me, she was like, I love John Wick 1 and 2.
Yeah, I mean, because Halle Berry's a badass.
She really
is. She comes from badassery. She's gone to the school of badassery. And or maybe she was a teacher. Maybe she was a founding member. So it was cool that she was interested, and it was wonderful to work with her, and her commitment. Some people say they want to do John Wick training, and they get introduced to it and they're like,
get me a stunt double.
Maybe not, but that's been rare. I mean, like when I worked with Common on chapter 2, he was like all in. It was amazing. And on chapter 3, to watch Halle, because she had to work with these animals, right? The Belgian Malinois, the dogs. And that was no joke. And that was, I believe she was like at least 6 months involved with them.
They were tiny little puppies. And
Yeah. So that's all in.
Were you scared of those dogs?
She broke ribs.
I know.
She was like, I'd see her at the gym. I'd be like, wow. And I think you see that on screen because her performance.
That sequence is like just phenomenal.
Wow.
Were you scared of those dogs?
Myself? Yeah, when I first met them, certainly.
Really?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the first thing the trainer said to me is, don't look at them. Like when you're getting close, don't look at them in the eye.
It sounds like some actors in Hollywood.
Yeah.
Don't look them in the eye.
Yeah, but these ones are, canine killers.
And of course, when they say don't look
them in the eye,
what do you want to do?
Yeah, because then they're running over to Halle, she's petting them, and I can't look at them.
Wow.
And that's when I knew how serious it was. Yeah, everyone, I think the trainers worked with those animals for almost a year. Wow. For them to be able to do the choreography.
It really comes down to the dogs, doesn't it, in these movies?
No, it doesn't. No. They're fundamental and very important.
So Halle breaks through, 3 ribs.
Yeah.
Where are you in the injury-wise?
No, I'm good.
Nothing?
Yeah. No, I work with, everyone. I didn't get injured, which was great.
How do you stay in shape to do that stuff?
That's
just nuts.
No, I mean, I love it, and I think, love helps you, and I just have to take care about recovery.
Yeah.
Try and keep eat right, and cold water is great, hot water is great, and massage is great. Yeah.
And let's talk about some other scenes. I mean, let's just talk about every time you shoot someone in the head. You don't shoot them just once.
No.
You shoot them at least 2 times.
Well, that's because of, please don't give anything away, but there's some circumstances into this reason.
For some of them.
Okay, you're right. Yes, sometimes.
Sometimes you're just shooting guys twice in the head.
Yeah, you got to make sure.
Because what would happen?
I mean, tactically, depending on what, there are some tactical perspectives where it's not good enough for just one.
Like, you're not shooting them even from far away from the head.
I'm just saying
like
tactically, it's not unsound. Some people might talk about rounds, but yeah, that's true.
Is it fun when you're
fake
shooting?
Yeah, fake fighting's fun. Yeah, fake fighting's fun. I mean, for me, it's it's fantastic, right? I mean, to be able to have John Wick's agency and capability and all of that, it's cowboys and Indians, right? It's fun.
And the other thing is,
and ridiculous.
like I remember like when Kill Bill came out, people said it's so violent, so violent. And I said, but it's such over the top violence that it didn't affect me as if it was trying to be real.
Right.
So John Wick, like as much as yes, I was grabbing on my producer at times, going, you know it's not real. So
I think it's like unless you're being affected by the gore, I think it's just the intensity of it, perhaps sometimes.
And how much glass do you throw?
That was I wasn't throwing my the stunt double who plays John Wick is Jackson Spidell. Earned his money.
That's where you draw the line, not being thrown into glass.
Yeah, they don't. Yeah, no, they don't let me do that.
Would you want to?
I'd probably do it once and then say, Jackson, buddy, you were right. Why'd you let me do that?
Well, it seemed like it was you. I mean, it just
that's
got
good.
A whole like hole of mirrors and like glass. And
Yeah.
it was just so genius.
Yeah, it was fun. It's I mean, the director Chad Stahelski really likes just demolishing John Wick. I mean, do you remember in chapter 2 that stair fall in Rome where they just keep going down
and down?
Yeah, that was Jackson and Danny, and I mean, that's legit.
And how many lives is John Wick?
I hope he has enough.
I mean,
I hope he has a
there's
lot.
one scene, I'm not going to
enough.
spoil it. There's one scene where I'm just like, yep, of course he survives. And he's never out of his suit.
No.
He never takes his tie off.
No.
Which I just...
No. It's John Wick.
How many suits are on set for you?
There's a bunch. I got super clean John Wick suits. I got John Wick fighting suits.
Bloody suits.
I got the John Wick all torn up and beat up suits. I mean, there's like a rack. 2 racks.
You should release the John Wick collection.
I know. I mean, that's Luka Mosca, the costume designer. Does a great job with just masterful with all of the costumes and the tone. I mean, him, Kevin Cavanaugh, the production designer, Dan Lowson, the cinematographer. There's so many people working. They're so talented to create this world. I want to be in the world of the Continental. Don't you want to stay at that hotel?
That hotel's amazing.
I mean, I want to stay there. That looks good.
Okay, let's talk Bill and Ted's.
Oh, Bill and Ted.
How
wacky,
this
huh?
Is just, did
I mean,
you
how
ever
many
think?
years
I know.
ago?
I think probably one of the first times I interviewed you, you were talking about there was a script being developed.
Yeah, I think like 8 years ago, the writers approached Alex Winter and I about maybe doing something, and then we worked on some drafts together, and then it went through this shenanigans of show business rights and deals and stuff. Yeah, it's been wacky.
So have you started shooting? Are you shooting?
No, we have a wonderful director, Dean Pariseau, who's come on board, and it looks like they got the rights sorted. We got some dough, and not a lot, not enough. We don't have enough money. Anyway, I want more shooting days. It's a very ambitious story.
Is it?
Yeah. Anyway, they know. I think we need more money.
Did you ever think? How many years ago did you do the first one?
That thought never crossed my
30
mind.
years ago?
No. I mean, it's very, life is amazing. Life can be amazing.
But does it seem like 30 years?
Absolutely. It's not 50. I mean, it's not even water under the bridge. It's like, I don't know. It's like an ocean. It's like an ocean liner across an ocean.
What other movie could you see yourself coming back to?
I've always wanted to play John Constantine again.
Yeah, why?
I just love that world too, and I love that character. I just had a blast playing that character and any of that world.
No more Speed? Could you and Sandra get back on a bus together?
I don't know. I've been approached by the producer of that, but I never came together.
No, because I...
Jack Traven. Annie. Jack and Annie.
we were talking earlier about it. I was like,
We'll be
should
65.
it be in a bus?
What?
It'll be it'll be one of those those vans that they take the elderly around on.
Oh yeah. I'm driving. No, Annie's driving because I don't remember where I am. I won't even care. Where are we going? I want ice cream. You shut up. I'm driving now.
And you're going like 20 miles an hour and you think
there's
you're going
like
fast?
there's a thing. Don't slow down. We're making fun of something. Anyway, yes.
So no speed. No more speed.
I don't think there's any speeding for me going along. No. Unfortunately.
Have you been approached for some of these superhero movies? I feel like we should see you in.
Well, that's kind. I had a brush with a superhero, but it didn't work out.
A brush with?
I had a brush with a superhero being a part of something. It would be, it'd be fun to do. I mean, I think, DC and Marvel were making really cool movies.
This is opening weekend of Avengers, and they just announced domestic weekend.
Yeah.
350 million.
That's awesome.
Worldwide,
That's
1.2 billion.
That's great. What fun. It's like really
crazy numbers.
Yeah, but that's because people are excited to see the films and all of the performers and artists who've gone to telling these stories. This isn't just like a one-off, right? This is like a lot of people have gone into making good stories and characters and visuals and an amazing movie-going experience, And there's nothing like it on Earth.
No.
The resources to make that kind of art is astronomical, and for them to have the appreciation of the audience means they did something right. That means people are like, yeah, the movie, it's characters. I think, if anything, it's just a testament to how well the artists and everyone involved have made a movie, and that people are excited to see, and that pays off. That's like.
And John Wick 3 comes out, 3 weeks after it? You're going to take them down from that #1 spot, aren't you?
I have no idea. Certainly, I hope that people enjoy the film that we're making, and that's all. And if we've done that, that's great. And if we do it where the people who pay for the film, Lionsgate, say, okay, they liked your film enough that we can do another chapter, I'd be honored and grateful. That's we want to make a fun movie. We want to make a good, satisfying John Wick film.
So, are you in Hobbs and Shaw? What's happening there?
I'm not. No.
You are listed on IMDb. There are stories that say you were in this movie.
I don't know how that happened. I really honestly do not know how that happened.
So weird.
David Leitch, who I worked with many years ago on The Matrix, and then, he directed John Wick. I've been contacted, but I have no idea how that part of the story happened.
That's very strange.
Yeah, I've been contacted and I'm in conversation with them, but I don't.
Well, hopefully it'll happen.
Yeah,
why not?
Yeah,
So,
Dwayne Johnson, Jason Statham are amazing.
And you can hold your own against them.
No.
Yeah.
Whatever.
I've seen
Let's
what you
not
do
go
with John
there.
Wick.
That's John Wick.
Yeah.
No, man. I'm just part of the core. If I was doing that, I'd be part of the chorus, man. I'm just like, those gentlemen, those artists are fantastic, and certainly in action, they're extraordinary.
So 2 last questions I ask everyone. When was the last time you cried watching a movie?
Crying watching a movie. Where did I have some tears? Crying watching a movie. What's your other question?
What's the one movie you could watch over and over again and never gets tired?
Gosh. I don't have a film that I like. Okay, there's films that will come on and I'll be like, okay, we're watching that.
Right.
I think a lot of Scorsese films are like that. They're so seductive and great, and entertaining. Apocalypse Now comes on. You're like, okay, I'm watching that. Yeah, that's happening. What else? What was the other one? Crying.
Yeah,
I'm crying in a movie. Oh, I can't remember.
Are you a crier?
I'm not a crier. Yeah, I like it. It's good to get moved.
Yeah.
See that. I'm trying to think of films right now. Are there any tearjerkers out there? Which ones? What were the movies that came out?
Avengers Endgame.
I haven't seen it
A
yet.
lot of people are crying.
I bet.
I did. I got a little emotional.
I haven't seen it yet.
Okay, so I won't tell you why.
I know.
What else?
Well, you gave stuff away for John Wick, but with Avengers, you're not going to give anything away? Oh, you're all secreted now?
Listen, I had to do the Avengers junket. We weren't allowed to see the movie. You know what that's like? To try to talk to someone and you haven't seen the movie?
That's not fair.
It's hard.
It's hard to do your job.
Right, and then they sit down. I say, okay, let's talk about something else.
Yeah, I mean, that's not cool.
Well, thank you for being cool.
Yeah, I mean, but then I guess they want to control the thing.
The spoilers.
Yeah, because actually, you know what? They're smart because you're a spoiler. That's what you know. What? Like in the
spoiler alert.
You're a
John
spoiler.
Wick kills people.
Yeah, that guy. He's just like in the breakdown of the analysis of you. You know, of the analytics of you. He's just right there.
Never talked to him again. He's spoiled.
He's a spoiler, right? Maybe they just told you there was a whole thing that like maybe you were the only one who didn't get to see it. And everybody else was in on it.
Or maybe they showed me a different John Wick. That's not the real John Wick because they knew I was going to spoil it.
No, because I played John Wick in what you talked about, which you gave away.
At least you say you did.
No, I'm not. I'm not joining your conspiracy.
Hey everyone, this is Steve Weintraub with Collider.com, and I am here with director Chad Stahelski for John Wick 3. How are you doing, sir?
Good. Thanks for having me.
I'm super thankful that you are here, especially in the middle of your press tour. And I'm what you guys probably can't see on camera is there's a crowded theater. Before we get started, I want to give a huge thank you to Lionsgate for being an awesome partner and letting us screen the movie early. I want to give a huge thank you to everyone at IMAX because IMAX is easily the best way to watch a movie. The format's incredible. You can see John Wick 3 for 1 week in IMAX starting Friday. Let's start immediately with IMAX. Any feelings?
I love IMAX. Only way to go, right, IMAX?
But I mean, in all seriousness, it's an incredible format, and if you've never seen it before, this is the movie to start on. And you can see behind us, the screen is massive. Jumping into why I get to talk to you. First, congratulations on the movie. The movie is, I don't want to curse, but it's effing incredible.
Well, effing thank you.
Right. So jumping backwards, you finish John Wick 2. At what point did the studio say to you, the movie comes out opening weekend, it does well. At what point does Lionsgate call you and say, hey, are you thinking about a third?
I think it was probably, maybe 2 days. Monday, Tuesday, maybe by Wednesday, we got calls say, would you be interested in thinking about number 3? And Keanu and I said, sure, give us a couple weeks to think about it. And we took a couple of weeks and we thought about it. And we said we're going to need a couple more weeks. We just want to make sure that we could come up with an idea and had some thoughts that were going to be worthy of the time and the commitment and all your fan thank you-ness. And then, I think Keanu and I, we really love the world. We love the character. I love working with Keanu. And we went back to Lionsgate and said, I think we have a few ideas and we'd like to give it a go. And then we started development.
So at that point, you're thinking, okay, I'm going to do the third movie. You guys designed such incredible action set pieces. At one point in the development process, is it like that day that you're already thinking about how are we going to top ourselves? And how, you know what I mean? Like, how does that come together?
I don't think we've ever really had the thought of how do we top ourselves. We certainly don't try to go bigger or better. We just try to do. And it's like all you guys, you have a good day. You want to have another good day. I don't know if you want to have a bigger day, but you want to have a better day. So, we have a big notebook. We have a big office with all these ideas on the wall. And some things made it to the first John Wick. Some things make it to the second John Wick. And some things end up in the notebook. A lot of it is an open development. Like we like to joke that we're incredibly back-asswards in the John Wick world. We don't write the script first. We have our vision board, a big wall with all these great pictures, and photos of actors and cast we love, or references, or Latin phrases, or locations, or a picture just of a horse. Yeah, good idea. So I love architecture. I love music. So you'll have a picture of, or something that reminds you of Beethoven or Vivaldi or Haydn, and then you'll see something of, I have this big Caravaggio art. I love Renaissance art, sculptures, anything that'll spark something, and then we start crafting. We had a big picture of a desert going, Wick, suit, desert, great story. Then Keanu will go and start working with characters and threads. I told Keanu, like, look, I'd love to have this ninja guy, and then call him Zero. He's the zero of everything. He's like, that's great. I'm going to have something called an adjudicator. I'm like, that's great. And I looked that word up. And it was like, okay, judge, we're going to judge this. And then, we need someone that's going to be the moral, rather than just have a Spectre-like bad guy association that's going to deal with the financials. We're going to have a moral guide to the underworld. And we're going to call him the Elder, but he's not going to be old. And we're like, okay, great, write all that down. And then I'll write a 50, 60-page story almost in book form, and then we start branching out to writers, and we start actually developing the script. But to your point, for all the ideas, it kind of comes that way. A lot of it is, as we're writing, I'll go and start scouting a city, like in number 2 it was Rome or New York, and literally I was walking through Central Park. It was almost Christmas time. It was freezing out, and I was walking with my production designer, Kevin Kavanaugh, and we're like, Jesus, it's freezing out here. Like, where do they put the horses? So we asked the guy that did one of the carriages. He's like, oh, right over there. I'm like, over where? And he's like, right across Fifth Avenue. There's a stable. And you look and it says, the brownstone. Looks like, and sure enough, you walk in, it's 4 levels of horses. And we just started smiling, going, oh, John Wick coming in here. And then, you take that, and okay, John Wick runs into stables in Manhattan. Okay, no one will believe that. That'll be fun. Great. And then I recalled this incident where, as a stunt performer way back when, I got kicked by a horse. And it wasn't as bad as what you guys saw, but, like, it hurt. So I'm like, death by horse. Okay, good. We wrote that, and then Keanu's like, I love Westerns. You love Westerns? I love Westerns. The Sergio Leone thing that we're all fans of. He's like, John Wick, suit, ride a horse. Right, ride a horse. I got one better. Ride a horse through Brooklyn. Good. So we start designing stuff that way, and then, like the knife fight you guys saw, it's a culmination of, who here has ever thrown a knife at a tree? Okay, did it ever stick? Yep, me neither. Hit me right in the head, too. So with our company, our choreography team, the 8711 guys and stuff, we try to subvert all the time. So in every action movie you've ever seen, hero picks up a knife, he throws it, what happens? Dead nuts, sticks right on. Okay, we're like, that's never happened to us. So what do you say, John Wick just misses a lot? And I grew up with my brothers in Massachusetts, and when we had a snowball fight against, I was always 1, and then they were 2. So you take as many snowballs as you can. You just start chalking it. Win by 4. So we thought we'd have a missing snowball fight with knives, right? Snowball fight with knives, and that was the brief to the stunt team. And then, we just kind of come up with ideas like that. Ride horse but not well, got it. Ride motorcycles with sword, got it.
So in the pre-production process, you're coming up with these ideas. Talk a little bit about how long it takes to actually implement these things, because I want to give credit. 8711, your company, it does incredible work and does incredible work for so many different movies. But so say you're going to be filming in, let's arbitrarily say, June. When are you breaking down the set piece in terms of designing it and putting it together?
If you're talking about the martial art side of things or choreography, we start pretty early on, depending on the cast. Like Keanu will start almost 6 months out. I mean, it's not like you don't jump in and do 8 hours a day. It's like everybody here. You got to get in shape to get in shape. Nobody here can survive a 2-hour straight workout. You start with a half-hour workout, shape, hour workout. The cast is no different. You break them in slowly so they don't get injured. Everybody pulls a muscle. Everybody gets tired. You have to break them in a little far out, and then if there's a new skill set, take anybody here, to get them to do the splits might take a little bit longer to teach them how to do the judo throw. So you kind of work your way in like that. It's the other stuff that gets a little trickier. Luckily, we have Keanu, who's been in the action world for a long time. He owns his own motorcycle company. He's been on horses his whole career. He's fired weapons. He's done martial arts. So choreography's a lot tougher than you think. It's not really any martial arts. It's more like dance than any real martial art, because you have to remember the choreography, that's definitely a learned skill. But again, he's good at that. It was probably the animal stuff that takes a lot. What we wanted to do with the dogs. It's okay to chat about that for a second.
Well, I want to get into the dogs, but I want to actually get something before we get to the dogs. So Halle Berry's incredible in this. When did you realize that she would be able to do everything she does in this movie? Without, I don't want to do spoilers, but she kicks a lot of ass.
She does.
And so talk a little bit about that, and then let's get into the dogs.
We haven't. It was right after the incident I told you. It was right after Christmas, and we just started working on the story and the script. And we knew we wanted a really strong counter character. We had always seen like we were looking for the role, and that had gone out over the wire. Like, look, this is going to be a heavily physical role. Who out there who has clients that may be interested in a huge commitment? It's going to be a 6-month commitment. You're not going to be able to take another job. And that's tricky, like in Hollywood, because people don't realize most times on a movie you get 4 to 6 weeks to rehearse fights. The bigger the name cast, the less time you have because they're booked on this other job. When you start training for something like a Matrix level movie or a big superhero movie, like that's a massive commitment. That means you can't take any more money, you can't take another job, you can't go to your kid's basketball game, you're gonna live eating. So to find somebody like that, it's tricky, that wants to commit. And then I got a call from WME saying, Halle Berry would like to meet with you. Really? Right. When? Today. Okay, great, send her down. Literally, Halle was at my door a couple hours later, and I had never met her. And Halle came in and said, look, I'm a big fan of the first 2 John Wick. I'd like to be in your movie. I'm like, I'm flattered. That's amazing. But just, we haven't written the script yet. She's like, no, I don't care. I'm like, yeah, well, I think your agents would probably care, like there's no script. I don't even know what the character's name is yet. She's like, that's okay. We can figure that out. I'm really going to be in your movie. And I was trying to be, somewhat cool, but again, Halle Berry. It's hard to say. No, like I was really flattered, and she looked amazing. She was in incredible shape, and she's like, I'm gonna be in your movie. And I'm like, well, okay. She's like, no, I'm serious. You're not understanding. And I tried to give her an out, going like, look, I'll get back to you when we have the script. We'll work around it. We'll start writing the part. She's like, yeah, that's all great, but I'm going to be in your movie. Like, it's gonna be 6 months of training. She's like, great. When do I start? I'm like, no, like you don't understand the diet. It's gonna be fun for a week, then it's just gonna suck. Like the diet, the 3 times, there's 3 different workouts you have to do. You have to do this dog training thing, you have to do martial arts, you have to go to firearm training, then you have to go to stunt teams. She's like, yeah, I got it. I'm like, everybody says that, but no one gets it. And like, she never missed a day. So I don't know if she hired me or I hired her, but that's kind of like that.
I got to tell you, the level, what she does on screen is very impressive. And now without getting into any spoilers, in the trailers and images you've seen, she has dogs.
She does.
And so I don't want to say exactly what happens on screen, but what she did to have those dogs perform the way they did on screen is crazy. And I don't think a lot of people know what she did, and you could sort of talk about that.
I guess, again, if people don't know, an animal, any type of animal that you see on screen, they don't know it's a movie. You guys get that, right? There's no such thing as a movie dog or a movie. They've been trained to do certain things in a movie environment, but they're animals. They don't come out of their trailers. They don't, they're animals. So when you see a dog do a dog attack on screen in a film, that's actually a dog trying to injure a human being. They don't know what to play. They're actually attacking a human. And then either the trainer or the stunt person is in Kevlar gear or body armor, and they're trying to survive. That wasn't going to work for us. We figured that it wasn't going to do well. For those of you that haven't been on a set before, it's a pretty chaotic place. There's background going around, at any given time with 30, 40 stuntmen. We have multiple animals on set, firearms, a lot's going on, cameras running everywhere. And most of the time we see a dog attack on screen, it's, wider shot or a tight shot, it's one person being attacked by one dog. So we just said, how can we make this the most impossibly hard thing that we could do? So we tried to do it the way you've just witnessed on screen. But what it would have to take is, after we talked to Andrew Simpson, he's the guy that does all the wolves on Game of Thrones, probably in my mind the best animal trainer in Hollywood, anywhere in the world right now. He's just like the dog whisperer. But we said, look, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do real tracks. Is there a way to start from scratch and train these animals to actually be part of the stunt, actually teach them jiu-jitsu moves and do all this stuff and have them acclimated? He's like, oh yeah, absolutely. No, absolutely. Take a year of your life and you'd have to go find special dogs, and you'd have to have a stunt team and a cast that was willing to work with them for 5 to 6 months. And I went, okay. And that's it. And we spent all our money training dogs for a year. So Andrew went around the United States, found 5 Belgian Malinois, Belgian Shepherd, from different military installations that had not yet begun their training. And he found them with the physical and mental and personality aptitude that we were looking for. And we got 5, and it started literally 3 weeks later, where the dogs were trained with the trainers first. Then we brought in the first dozen stuntmen to train with them all the time. The dogs know you by smell or acclimate. So when the dogs are released, everyone says they love dogs until there's a 110-pound animal trying to hit you. Then you have some reserves, and the dogs recognize that. So we found the stuntmen that had the best mental aptitude towards animals that were angry. And the dogs and them became very, very close friends. And after that, we had to acclimate the dogs to the cameraman and to the firearms, to all the noise and sound that were going off. And then because we shoot wider and we try to do a lot of intricate long takes, just like we do with the martial arts stuff, the dogs needed to stay in the shot, which, if you don't know, they can't have leashes on them, or the trainer can't be right off the camera. So why? So rather than have trainers in green suits, we just had Halle be the trainer. We taught Halle not only to be friends with the dog, take the dogs home, to live with the dogs, to feed the dogs, to cuddle and play with the dogs, but to actually train and command them on set. So when you see her on screen giving the Arabic words of commands, she's actually... So that's a little war.
I don't want to obviously get into the specifics of the film, but I think in the trailers you've seen it's part of the Morocco set piece. And I think we would all agree, you all just saw the movie without spoilers, that set piece is jaw-dropping. It's crazy what you do, and there's always 2 dogs doing stuff. I don't know if I've ever seen a movie do what you did.
Yeah, no. Forget. Well, we kind of call it porn. Sorry. There's martial art porn, gun porn, sword porn. It's our little way of... That was like our... We wanted anyone to know that's worked with animals before, like, yeah, we didn't cheat this. Like, there's 2 dogs on. We wanted to pan off and come back and kind of show you that, yeah, we're not goofing around, and it wasn't a digital dog. It was all real dog. It was a lot of time and effort put in, but like, I don't know. There's something impressive to me about actually seeing performances like that. That's why Keanu does as much of the action as can. Why we overtrain our cast to be, part stunt performer as well. And, we wanted the same work and the same kind of credibility out of the animals in the film as well.
I want to talk a little bit about the editing process. When you're putting together, let's arbitrarily say, the Morocco sequence with Halle and Keanu fighting, talk a little bit about how much is that all figured out on set in terms of how you're going to be cutting it? How much is it working with your editor? Because some of the editing, I mean, it's all about the editing to put something like that together.
I'm a big fan of live performances, live dance, or old musicals, or exhibitions, anything like that. And that's why I shoot the way I do. It's not really a fuck you back to anyone going, like, we don't use shaky cam. I have nothing against shaky cam. I have nothing against tighter shots or fast editing. It's just that's not what we would try to do in John Wick. So rather than how most people do, we'll teach the cast, come in, the cameraman will see it on the day. They try to capture as much as they can for the time they have, and then the editor figures it out. Way back in prep with the rehearsals, I'll have my cameraman come to rehearsals 3 or 4 months out, so they're acclimated. I have my cinematographer come there so he knows where to put the wider you shoot, you limit your other departments. If you're not telling your cinematographer that you're going to shoot wide and do this long dolly shot, he's got nowhere to put his lights. So now he's scrambling to try and make that work. And then the cameraman, you've just asked the stuntman to rehearse 2 months, but the cameraman rehearsed for an hour on most films, and that's why you get that kinetic sense, because they're missing. They're trying to find it. And the wardrobe guy, he hasn't prepared because he hasn't seen it, so he's only got 1 suit, so you can't script that suit, and that's how it all starts to go to shit. So we're like, okay, that's happened too much. We're going to treat this like a live show. Everybody's coming to the rehearsals 3 months out. So the editor's there. He understands. Evan Schiff is my editor. He's been my editor for the last 2 films. We like what we call symmetrical editing. 90% of the scenes in John Wick, whether action or not, will start very wide, medium tight, medium wide, and then be symmetrical. We find that interesting because it feels like you're bringing the audience in. It's almost like a slow push. Like, you guys are sitting right now and you're watching the screen. Here in IMAX, the screen's a little bigger, so it's a little bit more what we're trying to do. If it was more of a regular screen, you could just take it all in without panning your head. With IMAX, you can sit here and you kind of got to search the screen a little bit to follow the action. That's kind of what I'm trying to get when we do the editing style that we're doing. It's not so much of a massive perspective shift, like going over the shoulder, and flip-flopping the angles. It's slowly bringing you into the scene and slowly letting you come out. It just makes you relax and become more observant of what's going on. And that's kind of the editing style that Evan and I have always tried to try to get with the action. So it's like you're sitting in a live theater just watching the performance. So just, there's the guy on the stage, and there's the guy on the stage, and oh, look, there's something going on down here. And that's what we talked about quite a bit. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, like, a lot of times, especially because I shoot on actual locations, you know what? There's a lot of times I have no idea. Like, zero. Like, we lost 3 locations in Morocco. We lost in Marrakesh. We lost in Fez. Finally, we found the town that we shot in, Aswara, that we played for Casablanca. And we got our first location. We're ready to go. And I don't know if you can tell by that, but it's a huge fishing village. So when we got there in the summer after having scouted it, well, we didn't realize how much fish was being brought in every day. And there's over 1,000 cats when we got back there. Okay, I don't know if you know anything about dogs and cats, but, like, they're distracting to each other. So we literally had to hire 30 cat wranglers clean out the fish market, and it got so crazy that we had to move locations to the next square over. And that changed the configuration. So while we know patterns and sequences, it took the stunt team another day. Like, we didn't sleep for a weekend just trying to reconfigure it so we could figure out our camera angles. So it's, in answer to your question, it's as set and it's as organized and planned out as we can make it, always having that 10% planning to be as organic and as liquid as possible to make room for changes. Again, we don't try to teach the cast 10 moves and hope they remember it. We have a little motto: the best way to fake being good is just to be good. So we try to just train them as stunt performers, and we don't worry about just having memorized 10 moves. So we want them to be able to change and adapt on the day. So you'll hear Halle still gives me quite a bit of shit. She's like, we train for 5 months and then we make it up on the day, and that's not far from the truth. Like, she was taught all the pieces and has this toolbox of sequences and moves, and then I might go, okay, take section 1, put it over at 4 over here, 5 here, 3's not working. I very much like a dance choreographer. We'll change routines, but the background will know their pieces, and we just move and mix to make it feel more organic. And sometimes I do it just to liven things up.
I'm curious, how long was your first cut compared to the finished film?
The director's bane.
For people that don't realize, the first cut is where you put everything in there, and then just to see what you have. And the first cut can sometimes be very long.
What's the great quote? If you don't have enough to throw away, you don't have enough. So I think our first one came in at, and I was pretty proud to get it down to 2 hours and 44 minutes. 2:44 was, I think, 2:45 was my director's assembly. And then the director's cut, which was much better, was like 2 hours and 29 and a half minutes, and I was really proud of that.
And is that something that, like, you were, the 2:29 cut, was that something that, like, you were like, oh, you could watch this? Or was it like, oh, no, we still have a way to go?
I could watch that. But I could watch, like, a Jackie Chan video all day long. You know what I mean? I still love Lawrence of Arabia. I still love the old 70s films where, like, running time was not an issue. Like, that was your Sunday. Like, I'd go with my mom and dad to the movie theater, and it's like, all right, bring it. And then we'd watch Lawrence of Arabia, like, twice. And there's 6 hours gone. So, like, I have a different kind of endurance for that. But, like, it was definitely watchable. It just, for you guys and for everybody else, like, pacing. The two biggest things that a director's really got to worry about is always tone. Like, what tone are you writing? Is this funny? Is it comedy? You don't want to confuse emotionally the audience too much unless that's your goal. And then pacing, like, you want to give action, like, you guys know, like, you watch any action movie, there's a lot of, like, John Wick is a great example. First one, there wasn't a single piece of action for 22 minutes. I can't even talk for 22 minutes. Like, we knew that going in, we're going to mess with pacing. And then it goes, and you're like, oh, this is weird. And then it goes. Like, we wanted to have that jump start. Number 2 is different. We started hot and got really slow just till everybody goes, Jesus, this is boring. And then, boom, okay, we'll wake you back up. Number 3, I was trying to be, again, I'm somewhat of a new director, so I like messing with things and still trying. We wanted to keep it going. You can feel the first 20 minutes are like nonstop. There's a ticking clock. And then it's like, put on the brakes, let's talk. And give you some story and show you some of the world. And then there's, when he gets back in New York, it's, okay, fasten your seatbelts, here it goes. And that's the fun part. I mean, I don't think you can have a really interesting, fast-paced action movie without having what I would not consider slow, but definitely put the brakes on for a little bit and enjoy the film. I love the experience of sitting in a movie theater and watching. I love a live show. Hamilton had slow parts. It didn't stop me or anybody else from seeing it. I thought it was great. Every good dance performance has those really dynamic, flashy moves, and then it has this intimacy that, sucks you into the performance. That's all we try to get here.
I'm assuming that what was the last sequence you cut out of the movie that, the last thing that almost made it into the finished cut, and why did you take it out?
Good question. The last thing we cut out. There's a scene, Randall Duck Kim, the doctor, that John Wick helps out and thanks so well. He had a scene with the adjudicator, and it was an interesting scene because he was punished for his helping John Wick. And while it's fun, it's good, we had to keep intercutting back and forth between John in the desert back to New York. We just felt it was one transition too many, and it kind of stopped what was already a slow act. So we kind of took that out to help move things forward to get to New York a little quicker.
Was that sequence over a minute, or was it something
it was
shorter?
90 seconds.
Oh,
minute and a half. It wasn't a lot, but when you're watching something and there's a rhythm going, 90 seconds can feel like 10 minutes.
You must have test screened the movie. I'm curious,
Many times.
What did you learn from those test screenings that impacted the finished film?
People's tolerance of headshots. No, honestly, you test screen against wide demographics. We did a blind testing. For people that don't know, they purposely screen out people that like action movies or have seen John Wick 1 or 2. So that audience, 1, doesn't like action movies and had never seen John Wick 1 or 2. So interesting notes, some interesting reactions of, ooh, wow, why? Which is good, but you also learn things about, even though they weren't action fans, and it was a few hundred people, it was seeing Halle Berry in the role, the world building, the color, at least, I got a couple, well, at least it was competently made, so that's good. I feel good, my editing and my lighting was successful and the camera wasn't too wacky, so that was good. My choice of wardrobe was okay. They made us understand, we're what we call hyper real in John Wick. It's a little over the top. So they kind of got the theatrics and what we're trying to do in terms of creating basically a live action anime or live action video game. So they got that. And you also get a real sense of what they can endure. And I mean that in terms of what we were just talking about, pacing. What they're willing to sit through when it's not one of your interests or passions. And that really helps because I got a lot out of it actually. Actually, I was really against the studio for making me do it. I was kind of angry about it. But at the end...
I've never seen you angry.
I'm a pretty angry guy. But I put it into my work. You learned a lot as far as I'm concerned about pacing and tempo of how we were doing things. So while I didn't take many notes about cutting out, it was literally 40 minutes of action they wanted me to cut. Wasn't going to do that. The body count is over 100. It's going to stay over 100. But it was good, and there were some logic questions that was nice to test that they actually understood, having not seen the first 2 films. So it was educational, for sure.
So did you because you did a few test screenings,
Mm-hmm.
did anything else through all the test screening process impact the finished film? Or
Yeah, oh no. We, up until, I think you guys... Yeah, really, the version you guys just saw now was the first time we had the ending we had. We had a very different ending up until literally a month and a half ago. That shot, the final scene.
Oh, I want to.
The final scene with the characters involved was new. So there's that.
I'm trying to protect the
movie.
movie.
Mine was a much more abrupt ending, if you can put your heads around that one. It just didn't resonate well. It didn't have the impact I was hoping for. So yeah, you talk about it and you try to come up with a better way of ending the film. That was a big thing, and trying to think what else we had. No, that was the main thing. It was just really about the ending. We knew we had something fairly decent. It's just, okay, you want to leave the movie with everyone going, okay, I'm satisfied, but what's next? And there's a million things I could say about the ending and why we end all these chapters like we do, and mostly because it's a chapter.
Sure. You and Keanu obviously have a great relationship. While making the third movie, what was the biggest fight you had and why? If you had one.
No, we don't really fight. We've known each other for a long time. We've been kicking the shit out of each other for 20 years.
Or was there a strong disagreement over something? Because I'm just going to interject and say there's a glass house in this movie.
Yeah.
And I was very lucky, and I got to do a set visit, and I watched Keanu do stunt after stunt after stunt after stunt. It's unbelievable what he's willing to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just curious, at one point, does he ever just say, okay, enough, I got, you know what I mean?
Not in 3 films, I haven't seen it. And nor I did 3 Matrixes with him. I helped him out when he directed Man of Tai Chi, and I did Constantine with him. And now 3 John Wicks, and I've never seen him not get back up.
It's crazy.
He's he's a very impressive man. He's my favorite human to work with on the planet. I mean, I can't say enough good things about him. He's incredible. We'll disagree with motivations sometimes. I don't think it was an argument, but how to do the scene in the tent with the elder and what that was supposed to mean and all that stuff. That was a point of big discussion, and the ending was probably our 2 biggest discussions. But they were all very constructive and positive. I mean, he is the most non-confrontational. You see him in John Wick, but I swear he's incredibly non-confrontational. He's the most collaborative cast member I've ever worked with. I mean, I sit here as, the title says director, but, co-collaborator and co-creator is definitely Keanu Reeves.
Which action set piece in the film gave you nightmares?
Oh, horses, man. Horses. They're tricky. No, the horse thing was good, and at the end of the day, I got to put my lead actor on a horse that's going 35 miles an hour down, the elevated train to Brooklyn, and we rehearse and we do things. We put safety lines on. We do a million different things, but shit happens sometimes. And you try. It's always nerve-wracking, and Keanu has a healthy respect of everything we do, but he just doesn't know how to say no. So sometimes you have to watch that. And the horses just wouldn't. I mean, we were supposed to be to make that sequence work the way we wanted, and we only got half the sequence that was planned. We needed to be getting 10 to 15 setups a day. Setup is part of the section of the sequence. And on day 1, we only have the elevated train in Brooklyn. It's summer, which was even dumber for me to shoot during the summer. So I have 8 hours of darkness, and I think we got 1 setup by 4 a.m. So day 2, I was already a day behind. So that was pretty bad, and that's because the horses just wouldn't. They didn't want to come out of their trailer that day. It was just, animals have a bad day. When they're done, they're done. And they just weren't responding. So we had to calm them down, take them back to the stables, bring out the second set of horses from LA, and then try it again. And that's when it started working.
I believe Darren Prescott was your second unit director.
Good friends with him.
I believe, if I remember correctly, when you were filming the movie or getting ready to film the movie, there were a few set pieces that he was still trying to figure out. How are we going to film this thing? Was it the horse stuff? Was it the motorcycle stuff? What were the sequences that you guys were, because you've been doing this a very long time, and Darren's been doing it a long time. So for you guys to be struggling means it's holy shit hard.
Yeah, when you write character rides horse, does this, 2 motorcycles crash, your head goes, okay, we'll use the stunt doubles here, we'll CG his face, we'll do a face replacement here. And then, the more than, arrogant and difficult director says, no, we're not going to use a double, we're not going to use that, we're going to have Keanu Reeves do it. That throws a wrench in the thing. So when I told Darren, no, we're going to do this, let's figure out a way to do it. So the first one was a horse thing, how do you get Keanu on and do it safely and not kill your lead cast member? Because they didn't want to do that. That was a little tricky, and him and our stunt coordinator, Scott Rogers, figured out a traveling safety rig that went above Keanu and all the horses, and they still crashed the motorcycles live and did all that stuff. So that was pretty impressive. That they figured out relatively quickly, within the first 2 months. And then when the motorcycle sequence, again, you have a lead actor that can ride a motorcycle better than most stuntmen. And then you close down the longest suspension bridge in the United States, the Verrazano. And then you got to give all the stunt guys swords. And then you got to try not to stab each other as you're going 65 miles an hour. Little tricky. We saw this movie a couple years ago called The Villainous. Have any of you guys seen The Villainous? Great film. But, hey, what's going on? I know this guy. I know this guy forever. You look good, man. I just talked to your brother today. Sorry, tangent. Yep, his brother was the one that got the thing in the head. Yeah. Anyways, when we had to do that sequence, Villainous is a great movie, so we thought, okay, that's great, and we got to talk to the director, I got to talk to the director, some of the people that made it, and we were really impressed by how they did the digital stitching between live action and CGI, and we thought, this is great. John Wick, as you can tell, is an ode to a lot of the favorite action films it did, from Kurosawa to Leone to Bertolucci to Tarkovsky to, you know, Jackie Chan, all the way through some of the Bruce Lee films from the second film. So we thought it'd be a good idea to, like, you know, we love two great Asian films that or from Asian cinema, The Raid, we love that. So you can see Chuck and Ye Yan in there, and The Villainous. So we're like, okay, we're gonna do this. And then we started sitting down, we watched The Villainous, like, oh, that's awesome. You know what? That's great. But we had no idea how they did it. And we tried to break it down, and we're like, this is really good. They did a great job. So it took a little while to figure it out, and then how to do it a little bit more live action than even they had tried, and to put our lead actor in it. They did something very cool and sneaky by putting helmets on everybody, so you didn't know who was who. We took the helmet off and said, you're going to see this guy. And that took a lot more planning than we thought it was going to take, and about 2 months of rehearsals between the soundstage work and the live action stuff.
You co-directed the first John Wick, and you've done the John Wick 2 and 3. What do you think you've learned as a director from the first film to now the third film? Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Look, before we did that, Dave and I both had a good solid 10 years of second unit and action directing behind us. And, you know, you're directing big action, you're directing cast, you know, everybody from Will Smith to Brad Pitt to Keanu to Schwarzenegger to Stallone. We had done so much work on the Expendables and some of the superhero things in Marvel movies. You know, we were pretty arrogant, or let's say confident, I guess. That, yeah, we got this, no problem, we're going to start going in. But the ability to talk to cast and really hold true to that thread of what the character is doing when you're shooting out of order is, you know, it's an amazing skill set that you have to have. You have to track things that you never really had to worry about as just an action guy. The idea of blocking and saying something with the camera, other than just catching a big explosion or following a car chase, is always challenging. Like, what are you saying? Are you moving the camera just to move the camera? Are you trying to say something? Are you trying to capture an emotion? Are you trying to bring something out in the story? We're big silent movie fans, which are amazing. They brought up a lot of stuff without editing or without a lot of talking or exposition, so we just tried to keep that the motif on the first Wick of, we're going to show you, not tell you. And that was a big thing. And then we realized about, I don't know, maybe 3 days in that, yeah, we're not as good as we thought with cast. So luckily we had Keanu on our side that says, hey, you're going to be working with Willem Dafoe next week. You might want to get your shit together. And I'm like, yeah, that's a really good idea, man. So let's get Dummy's Guide to How to Direct. No, we got in, and just you start learning that you just don't say go again. You don't just say that was great, hit your mark. Like, how do you really talk to them to bring out what's on the page and really explain what's going on and do your homework? And we had a pretty good idea about that, but like we really had to hone our skills. So we kind of cracked down and really started working with the cast a lot more than we did. It's the same thing, you know, like we're great at putting a camera somewhere, great at action, but like, can you tell a story? Can you tell a story the way you want to tell it, so it's not just forced through editing? And that was a big thing. And then in post, which is a whole other world that most action directors don't have to deal with, it's the things that we were just talking about. Is like, how do you maintain the tone of your film? Because the original John Wick was much darker and much more grounded, and we wanted a funner film. So how do you maintain, you know, basically killing a puppy and have fun? Like, that's a trick. And then, you know, and then with pacing and how to keep things grounded, how to give a little emotion to something, and how to make it, you know, kind of pace through and move through the action. You know, again, this is just my third film, so I'm a bit of a new director. Still constantly learning, trying to expand what you know, accept that, you know, I mean, there isn't a day I didn't go to set and literally thought I was going to shit my pants. I mean, what's a better way to say? I was scared every day. Like, you don't want to fail. You don't want to make mistakes. You don't want to be caught up not knowing how to do something because you didn't do your homework, or because you didn't read enough, or because you didn't research enough, or because you didn't think about it enough. So yeah, it's terrifying. But you just can't be afraid of being afraid, and you just got to try, and you got to keep experimenting. And when something goes south, you got to correct it and try again the next day. You know, it's like learning anything else, I guess.
Which, I would imagine you guys have designed a whole bunch of set pieces between the three films. Is there a set piece that came this close to actually being in a movie that got cut out for whatever reason?
Oh, I've been trying to build a glass house for 3 movies. It just costs a lot of money. I love optical illusions. Anybody that watches magicians live or some of the bigger guys, they know you can use glass as to refract or reflect. And that's always fascinated me about, you can see in all the John Wicks we do gags with reflection. And I think that's the duality of that, reflections, all that stuff is fascinating to me as a thematic and in human nature. So we try to put a little of that in everything. That's why you see the glass house and or the mirror room in number 2 and the glass house in number 3. But I love that idea of being able to see and not hide anything. And you don't see wires, you don't see the camera, you don't see anything. It just feels expansive to me, and it feels retro at the same time as, you know, slightly futuristic. I don't know, it's a cool vibe.
What was it like telling the studio or your producer about the glass house or the glass in this movie, and were they like, no?
No, there's a lot of tears. Yeah, no, they kind of look at you like, that's great, so how much are you actually going to build? They give you the nod like, yeah, that's really cool, yeah, how big does it have to be? And then you start doing the numbers, and they go, okay, so do you really need all 4 floors? Well, maybe I could do 3. And you always ask for more because you're going to get squeezed. So I got 2 floors, and I started with 4, and it was much bigger when I started. But yeah, no, they were good. You got to fight for what you want. That comes at a cost. You know, the original schedule for this film was, I had 67 days, and then you start baseball card trading. You start going, okay, I ended up shooting the whole movie, including Morocco and the additional photography in 56. So where do those days go? Well, you trade the money of those days to get bigger sets or a cast member or more camera. Like, you constantly got to deal with the budgetary restraints because there are financial limitations to what you're making. So fortunately enough, I had 2 great producers, a unit production manager and a line producer that were very good at helping me manage what I had. That's how we got the glass.